7:12 on this Monday morning. Edmonton East MP Peter Goldring joining us this morning. Welcome.
Pleasure to be here.
You've been in the news a lot this year. We're going to talk about why right now, because it's a mission that you've had for about the last 9 years or so. You're interested in adding the islands of Turks and Caicos as Canada's 11th province. My initial response is to smile. A, because it seems too good to be true. B, I heard there's 350 days of sunshine there. But what's behind your motivation? Why the Turks and Caicos?
Well, first, to correct a misunderstanding, it's not about annexing. That smacks of colonialism. And frankly, adding the islands, although that's the ideal. But first and foremost, there's huge business opportunities. And the Turks have made it known to me, and I'm making it known to the government, that they're interested in setting up a platform of Canadian operations. For example, South Caicos Island can be developed into an international trading port for transshipment throughout the region.
This would be impossible if it were not a province?
No, it can still be done, but leading up to possible provincial status.
Okay.
But there's many things that we can do to lead in that direction.
You got a big file in your lap there, and you were telling me briefly in the commercial break you're working on the file right now for Canadian unity issues involving Quebec. Would there be a concern that Canada might not fully embrace a province like this with such a geographical distance between the rest of mainland Canada and Turks and Caicos?
Well, Edmonton is further away from Ottawa than the Turks is. So
point.
We really don't have a difficulty there. And when we look at Canada's outward looking to the world for international trade, it would be ideal to have this partner, this trading platform in the Caribbean Rim of countries on the doorstep to the South Americas.
Okay, we threw this question out on our Facebook page asking our viewers what they thought, asking should Canadians broaden their horizons. Christy says if the U.S. can move north to Alaska, we can move south to Turks and Caicos. Teresa says this was in the news a few years ago. Is it all of a sudden a possibility again? Glenda loves the idea, but Heather says, I was down there earlier this year. The people I met and visited with had no desire to become part of Canada. You've spoken with government officials down there. What's their message been?
Well, their message, and even the Premier's message, is one of greatly increased engagement from Canada in trade and social development, economic and social development. So that's the number one. And certainly there is the feeling in the islands itself. They've come to Canada hat in hand 3 times, turned down. There's such a feeling that they don't want to ask again and be told the answer they don't want to hear. So there is some hesitancy. So now it's time for Canada to step up and say, well, look, if this is going to be economically viable, and it has to be economically viable for Canada as well as for the Turks and Caicos, and should we come to an accommodation there that's good for both of us, then maybe then we can proceed to the next step.
I think that word accommodation is key. Globe and Mail columnist Andrew Steele wrote that, perhaps the more socially conservative leanings of that island, specifically referencing their perspective on gay marriage, may cause a problem. Others say that perhaps tourism dollars invested there may hinder tourism exploration of Canada's other jewels, and some look to the island's tax system as being very different than Canada's. Do you share these concerns, or are these types of areas where you think that this so-called accommodation could happen?
No, and for example, the taxation. Yes, they're tax-free for property and tax-free for wages and income, but they have an annual fee. And the annual fee really amounts to a form of taxation. There's an annual fee for properties that equates to our property taxes, an annual fee when you employ yourself there that equates to employment taxes. So they kind of can balance themselves off quite readily.
We have to assume it might be some sort of a task for integration. Now, I'd be remiss if I didn't ask you about the other reason why you've been in the news lately, and I want to ask with regards to your priorities as an MP right now. You were exonerated when it came to a failure to provide a breath sample charge. You were welcome back to the Conservative caucus. But in the course of your trial, you made the statement that the trial highlighted problems with random roadside checkstop legislation. Is remedying this also on your list of priorities?
Yes, it is. I'm working on that quite actively. I'm in the process of trying to meet with the Chief of Police right now so I can go over some of my concerns on my issue, as well as going over concerns that would help to remedy this so that others won't fall into the same difficulty that I did.
And have you received sort of an open reception, or do you believe that you're getting some traction with regards to this?
I haven't yet, and I'll keep people apprised of it. I would be disappointed if I wasn't given the opportunity to review some of this with the Chief.
Thanks for your time. Conservative MP Peter Goldring, representing Edmonton East. Turks and Caicos How do you like the sound of that as Canada's 11th province? Let us know. Feedback on our Facebook page. We'll get to as many responses as we can. 7:17 Monday morning. BT back right after this.